Guys, the power with making income, part-time income, full-time income, without being in a fixed situation, in a fixed environment, and or on a fixed schedule is probably the best thing anybody can do at any age in this life that we have, honestly. Especially just how things are just going with, the economy in different places, being flexible with, income and being more in control of how you make income, guys, is like the next kind of step, man. So whether you guys are like retired, you're on disability, you're a military, vet, you started an online business or you work remotely, taking that and figuring out your options to just make that stretch is like crucial in like 2026, So many layoffs, especially like me coming from America and dealing with people in the corporate world, it's crazy. And there's more layoffs than fewer depending on the industry you're in, right? I talk with a lot of passion behind it because in today's age, man, especially being in America, especially being in the States, it's hard to hold a job. Like it's normal to be without a job, which means you're out without income for months, sometimes years for certain people, sometimes years, guys. If a single person, and I'm talking to people, who are, on the fence with going to college or on the fence with knowing like where to step in with their career or seeing if they want to stay in their job, right? So maybe a little bit on the younger side, but you could take this information too. If you're like, again, on the older side, you're living independently in the States, that demographic of people, you guys can live anywhere. In a place like the States, it's really volatile, right? It's volatile to be there without a certain minimum of expenses. Single or family of 8, Medicaid, Medicare isn't the greatest for certain demographics. And then you have all this other stuff going on, guys, that we, currently know till today, Everything is in front of us. It's all in plain sight. So it's like, where can I maximize not just my longevity and health, but like, where can I maximize my income? I venture out to say, if you're making around $2,500 a month, right, in any way, shape, or form, even if that's not what you strictly make, like even if you have sales, you're in sales, and that's your average. Like 1 month you make 2,000, 1 month you make 3, right? Is your average. And you're single, right? The world is kind of your oyster, right? You just have a lot more options, right? To not be in a fixed situation. And although the income isn't grand, right? You don't have to spend everything you make. Like in the States, people spend more than what they make. That's why they have credit cards and people go into debt with loans and stuff like that. They have all these programs now for people to do things that we were doing easier, 20, 30 years ago. They have all these programs for people just to buy groceries. People can't fully get gas, and people, it's just blah, 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 blah. It's just craziness, right? Outside of all the bad stuff happening with food and politics and blah, 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 blah. So it's just like, where can I be in a less volatile situation and not spend more money, right? How do I spend less? So a lot of places like Asia, especially Southeast Asia, right? I obviously advocate for it. There are a few places, in different countries within Africa, right? There could be a few places in Europe, again, especially if you're single, we could get on a long-term visa based on our income. There's like 13 to 15 places here just in Asia that we can get on a long-term visa based on your income, based on around $2,500 a month. If you guys are in a relationship or you and your friend are wanting to just do something different, right? And you guys want to split bills, $2,500 can work too, right? Just because the accommodation with housing is a shared expense. Traveling or transportation can be a shared expense. I'm really talking about how prominent $2,500 a month or about $600 a week is living outside of America, especially if you're on more of this southeastern side, of the world, guys. Just Google places. What is the locals living on? Like if I want to go to a place due to the weather, due to the economics, infrastructure, due to the sports there, like I'm like, okay, can I live here based on this income? I like to look at what are the locals making, and then I'm factoring another 10 to 50% because I'm an expat, I'm a foreigner, right? Unless you want to assimilate exactly to the locals, you're gonna be paying more. That's just how it is. I also Google, I'll chat GPT, right? You know, all that stuff. I look at YouTube videos, all that stuff, right? And be like, okay, what are people spending currently there who is kind of in the same realm as I am? I'm on fixed income, you know, I came from this place, so what are they doing that I would like to do? I'm by myself or I'm in a relationship. But generally, guys, $2,500 a month can work. It can work, you know? So as long as your mind is open to different cultures and different ways of living, because it is a little different in different places, obviously, right? America or the UK or Australia, like these are just one, like it's like 1% of the world, you know what I'm saying? So there's just different ways of living. And I think that's the beauty with like life and exploring life. There's a lot of people who can't find their person, right? And as long and if they just leave the state they're in or the country, that can happen. And people start families by doing that. It's just crazy that if you're just changing your environment with a little bit of income, because that's a little bit of income considerably being on the west side, like right of the world, like being in America, Canada, like that's a little bit, $2,500 a month. If I'm a family of 3 or 4, that's poverty. That like literally, that's poverty. I'm in Section 8. I'm on there's some sort of government subsidization that I have with food and bills. You know, like I'm broke and poverty stricken in a sense, right? 2,500 gross, right? I'm making what, maybe $1,900 to $2,000 a month, and I have 3 to 4 mouths to feed. I can't do that in the States. Not at all. Not at all. But $2,500 a month, you can do that comfortably. If you're like working a full-time job in the States and you're willing to decrease your income, then, you know, you could bring some flexibility in your life with time, because now you can decrease the time you're working. All right. So just throwing stuff out there, you know, just my mind is just like going, it's always going about this topic, because there's people who are struggling on SSI, being in places, you know, all over the country in America. Like they're struggling on SSI, they're struggling with Medicare, you know, they're struggling with just all this stuff, just with living, basic living. These people aren't looking to travel across the country. Like they're not looking to travel in the state. They're looking to be in their, you know, house, apartment, condo, whatever people are in the States. You know, they have a car, or they may rely on some sort of transportation. They get groceries. People can't do basic stuff. They're struggling and tapping out off of basic stuff, although they're making $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 on SSI, and that can't work. So I was like, man, you know, I could take this and run with it. You know, there's people who can work remotely in the States, and they choose not to, right? For various reasons. Yet they're stuck and they're living paycheck to paycheck, and they're looking to start a family, and they're looking to buy a home. Well, you can do that outside the States, even on $2,500 a month. You know, so it's just knowing your options and just saying, hey, like, where can I go to just have more life? You know, there's a lot of countries, especially if you're not looking to travel, you're just looking to relocate, you know, and depending on your income, depending on your savings, depending on what you're trying to do, you know, there's longer term visas where you can stay put in countries for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, right? And if you're willing to kind of get up and go and explore the world because your income can do that, your job, or the situation allows you to do that, and that's, you know, that's pretty cool, right? It'll be a cool experience. You ain't got to be in the military just to do this stuff. It's grand. It's all about having the opportunity.